So, Butterfly Effect 3. It's better than 2. It has a subtitle. It's called Revelations. It isn't a Butterfly Effect film. I would put that out there. It has the same title. It has people jumping back into previous versions of themselves. But it's very different. The basic idea of this, they could have just called it Revelations, and it would have been a perfectly acceptable film. People expecting it as the Butterfly Effect 3, I think would be disappointed. But then, would it have been made without that? I don't know, because it was After Dark Films. It was an entirely separate entity in every way, shape and form. So, I actually really enjoyed it. Main character's a bit kind of like, he overdoes the kind of face. That's, what you're going to do. But with this, it's very different methodology. It's just focusing on a date and time. Because at the start of it, he's basically helping out the police. He's like a police psychic, apart from, one of the guys who's like a main contact says, I know you're not psychic. If you were psychic, you'd tell me the first thing my wife ever said to me. And, keep that in mind. Comes back later in the film. And things like that. And he's like, well, I can't, but I can't tell you my methods. And it's basically he just sits in a bathtub with a lot of ice, remembers the date, turns the light off. I don't know how it works. It explains it in as much, as much as the first one explains how it works. Again, it's fantasy, even though he's got brain monitoring stuff hooked up on his head and stuff like that. It's not science fiction. There's no scientific exploration of it. It's literally just the fantasy of time travel, not done through a machine. But each time he goes back, it's quite weird. His situation, this is where there's a potential that it's actually showing slightly larger implications, but it's still very centralised to his family. His situation gets worse. He comes back and, he's kind of like not got the job helping the police, and they're a bit suspicious of him. And then the next time he comes back, he's actually on someone else's sofa rather than someone being on his sofa like the first time. But his sister keeps getting better. Her apartment's clean. She's actually got a job. She starts basically in a very severe kind of depressive, almost agoraphobic, kind of anxious lifestyle. She just gets better. He gets worse. And it's quite interesting to see that, because when the ending comes around, you're kind of like, that might be why. But there's a lot of kind of hidden backstory as well that's hinted throughout the film, whereby apparently when they were younger, there was a house fire, their parents died, and he ended up saving his sister, and so she's kind of, or he's all that she has, should I say, and vice versa. But it's basically centred around a person who is the sister of someone who he was involved with who died a few years ago. Says, look, I don't know how you do it, I don't know how you kind of go back and understand it, how you see it, whether it's psychic or not, but I want you to do this for my sister. If you really cared about it, you'd want to know the truth. Now, because it's personal involvement, he really probably shouldn't do it, because his desire would be to change it, which makes sense. If someone you cared about was being killed and you could step in, you could go back and step in, you would want to. It's normal. But by doing that, each time he kind of goes back and someone else has got killed now, and there's actually a whole serial killer that's been created out of him going back, and he's going back trying to figure out who the killer is and stop them before they kill the next one. But a lot of these people, it's like, well, I don't know who they are, or they don't seem to relate. And it kind of spirals, into this kind of thing where it's like, am I just going crazy? He's got a guy who I always want to call Saul. I don't know why, he looks like a Saul, but I think his name's Emmanuel Goldberg, something like that. It's definitely not Saul, But in my head, it was Saul. He looks like a Saul. That's maybe it. But this Goldberg guy, anyway, like, he's kind of helping him. He knows what he's doing. I don't know if he's meant to be some weird tie back, because there's no one called Goldberg in the older films, but you know, he's kind of guiding him and saying, you know, don't go back in your own time stream, don't try and change things, don't go back to one you've already been to, you know, and all these kind of things, like, don't do it alone, you know, have someone watch you. But he keeps breaking those rules and things keep getting worse. And the end comes, and this is your warning to avoid spoilers if you didn't watch them leading up to now. So you wouldn't have this issue. Then either go away, or if you don't care, carry on. It's entirely up to you. Okay. So, at the end, he confronts the Pontiac Killer, I believe it's called. Who happens to be his sister. Now, Rachel Miner, I'm going to say. M-I-N-E-R, so I'd say it. It's great. You know, she acts kind of like muted crazy at the start, and then she acts well as like she's kind of getting more settled. But then she acts like crazy at the end, and like it's like she was born to play crazy. I'm sure I've seen her a few other things. Her face is familiar. I can't place her, but she's just got one of those faces that can be crazy 1 minute. She kind of looks a little Julie Benz at times. I don't know if that's just me, but she's great, and you know, she kind of just says, "You're my life. You know, everything I've ever done, it's always been for you because you rescued me from that fire. I wouldn't exist if it wasn't for you. So, you know, I love you so much, you know, you're everything I've got." And it kind of goes into this like weird incestuous thing that he's like, whoa, no, step back. No, that's not how it works. And he's really kind of disturbed by it. So he ends up going back and making her die in the house fire. Now, he's never wanted to talk about it, like the actual fire during the film. And it's unclear if, you know, he started the fire. Although it was revealed during the film that he actually went back to save her originally. You know, he went back to actually stop her burning up, you know. Only through him jumping back once, is she alive? But yeah, so as I say, he goes back and actually just kind of goes, look, I came back and saved you, and it screwed everything up. I need to let you die. And then, you know, it cuts back to his life. It's normal. Everything's fine. And he's got a creepy daughter who's got the same name, who burns a doll on the barbecue. Kind of almost implying maybe, like, you know, there's a weird, like, she's, like, her soul transferred into his daughter. Which, to me, is a massive stretch. It's the one bit that I'm like, okay, this was clearly more in, like, the kind of horror-y kind of vein. It was more, like, about the creepy elements of, you know, what if and everything like that. But I think that's a bit kind of... It's a bit far. I think it goes a bit to an extreme there. Of kind of going, she lives on, but she can only jump in her own timeline. You know, if she was being burned up as a child, as we discover she can jump as well, then did she just jump into one of his sperm that was swimming around? I mean, I don't know how old he was, whether he'd even have sperm swimming around. I'm not sure, I'm not a biologist. Because otherwise, how would she be in his daughter? And that phrase should never be uttered by anyone. But seriously, how would she do that? It doesn't make sense. It's the one bit of the film that I'm just like, what? I mean, there's a lot of it that I'm like, what? But, you know, I do like the film if it's not taken as Butterfly Effect. It has similar ideas, but it's not a Butterfly Effect film. And it's interesting on its own merits. As I say, with all of them, they have flaws. They're not perfect. But they've got interesting ideas. And aside from the second one, I'd say just watch them every now and again. And have fun with it. Explore what it means to go back and alter time. I mean, again, none of the films show wide-reaching implications. That's the only thing I will say against all of them. But they're not bad. Give them a go. If you haven't already, leading up to this, give them all a go now. Binge them. Whatever. But until next time, as always, take care. I'm sure I've seen a few other things.